Hi, so let's talk a little bit about RxJS and basically relating it to two other concepts that we know pretty well working with Meteor, that is promises and Meteor subscriptions. So to understand all of these async things, let's first look at the most obvious of value, an immediate value, a value you can hold in your hand like money in your wallet. And this value, let's say that it exists at time equals 0. You have it now. You can pass it to console log and do things with it. So that's the most obvious synchronous kind of value we can have. But suppose that we take that a step further and say that let's allow for the possibility that this value exists at a future date. And at that point, what we have is a promise. A promise is a object now onto which you can attach behavior that will run at a later date when that value becomes available. We say that it's an eventual value is what a promise is. So suppose you've just started a job and you are gotten a raise, yeah, congratulations, and you're looking forward to that first paycheck. That first paycheck is an eventual value, and you might make plans. I will get my first paycheck, then I will buy some furniture for my apartment. That is the way that you utilize an eventual value, a promise in JavaScript. Now, you might ask, what if I don't make it to that first paycheck, or what if something happens? What if the offer is rescinded? Whatever, some error condition. So a promise actually has two paths it can take. It can represent a value eventually or an error eventually. Both of those are taken into account in the promise specification. So now, you say, but Dean, I don't expect to get just a single paycheck from this job. I imagine that when I join a job, I'm getting paychecks over time. We could call that a subscription. And if we ask ourselves, what does multiple values over time look like? It looks like a Meteor subscription. One value is emitted, then another, and so on. And we might ask ourselves, will we ever know that the subscription is done? And the answer is no. You can cancel your subscription. In other words, in this example, you'd be leaving your job, and that would terminate the subscription. Or the server can terminate the subscription with an error, which would be like your employer terminating you with an error. There is no successful completion where your employer says, good work, you're done here now. Like, congratulations, you finished your job. No, it's an indefinite arrangement unless the client terminates or the server terminates with an error. There's one other little particular detail about a Meteor subscription that I'll just mention in passing, which is that it can send a ready event at any point in time. It is not required to. It will never send more than one. But the idea of a ready event is that if you have some back pay, for example, that you're owed, your subscription will send the ready event as soon as you are caught up as far as the server knows at that point in time. All right, so that is the full picture of a Meteor subscription. Is there another way of dealing with values over time? And yes, there is. It is called an RxJS observable. Observable is actually a specification like promise that is coming out of the JavaScript community. It is not an Rx. It's not a platform-specific concept. But what it is a concept of is values over time, like a subscription, except that an observable can mark that it has terminated successfully, or it can throw an error. So this is very powerful. A promise terminates successfully or it terminates unsuccessfully. A Meteor subscription is pretty neat in that its values over time, but it doesn't have the notion of being terminated. That makes it less useful in situations like AJAX requests. AJAX requests wouldn't be very well modeled by a Meteor subscription, and you wouldn't try to, but they can be very well modeled by an RxJS observable. So observables, I would say, kind of take the best parts of promises and the best parts of Meteor subscriptions, give to you the idea of a successful completion or a failure. They give you events over time. They don't give you the ready event. You'd have to kind of make your own event to send that means ready for your system. But they also support cancellation. And I think the best part about them is that they combine, the way you can combine observables is amazing. There's a site that shows uh, marble diagrams, which is a little bit of a version of what I showed here, that shows the power of actually using objects that stand for observable streams with these semantics, and the things you can do with them as far as control flow for your code is just amazing. So we'll go into observables later, but this is just to give you an idea about how observables fit into the picture of asynchronous JavaScript today. Thanks, this is Denius, and take care.